Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Startup Selling Podcast, a daily dose edition. Today, you've got me here, Scott Sambucci, along with Julian and Steven. And as we've been doing, we're riffing on different topics, different ideas, pretty much anything that we think is interesting and important to us in our work on a day-to-day basis. So if you're listening on a podcast, thanks for listening. If you're watching on iTunes or watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. And so before we went live, I found out from Julian and Steven that it turns out it's my turn to pick a topic, because I asked them, hey, what do you want to talk about this time? And they said, well, we think it's your turn to pick a topic. And so the topic I wanted to talk about today was mindset. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I've been thinking a lot about my own personal mindset over the last couple of weeks, both as it relates to the company as well as it relates to all the stuff that goes around one's activities on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis around your life. And so this is something I've been thinking a lot about, I've been reading a lot about, and I've been working on personally my own mindset on how I'm approaching problems, how I'm approaching clients, how I'm approaching everything that's going on around me each and every day. So before I get into my thoughts, I wanted to ask Steven and Julian, when you hear the word mindset, what do you think? What does it make you think of? And secondly, if you want to talk a little bit about how you approach your own personal mindset on a day-to-day basis, I'd love to hear about it. So let's go first.
I think that's Julian giving the international sign that I need to go first. The first thing that I think of, it comes to mind, is a quote by Giovanni Casanova, which goes something along the lines of, I have always believed that when a man gets it into his head to do something and occupies himself exclusively in that design, he must succeed whatever the difficulties. That's literally like something I have written down. It's above my desk. That's just something that really just gets me amped and motivated. I read that in Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, and I was like, that's so strong. So kind of just things we talk about, mindset, like we work in sales, we help people do things that are really, really hard, and you have to be prepared for yourself to just be like, I'm going to get this done. So that's a really important quote that I like that really shapes my mindset there. I also stay away from the word try as much as possible because it's kind of fatalistic. So you literally just focus on making an attempt at doing something as opposed to being like, I'm going to do this no matter what. No matter if I fall on my face or I get hung up on or whatever. Those are kind of ways I do it. And then lastly here, you can't see it. I'll move my camera, but on my chalkboard over there at the right, there's the word discipline. So as soon as I come out of my room in the morning, that's the first thing I see. That's what I do.
Damn, so just for people listening and watching, I just want to be 100% transparent on this. These guys did not know I was going to talk about mindset in 30 seconds before. I said, I want to talk about mindset. And he starts riffing on a quotes. What's the guy? Giovanni what?
Giovanni Casanova, like the guy who's like a ladies' man. That's his quote.
So that was just phenomenal, man. I've got some thoughts on it, but I want to hear from Julie when you hear the word mindset. Now, this is my topic, and now I'm intimidated. I feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So what about for you, Julian? Because I know you've been successful in different parts of your life, and you've done lots of different stuff. So I'm kind of curious, how do you think about mindset, and what are some things you do to get yourself into the right mindset?
So the first thing that came to mind when you said mindset is being really, really clear about where you want to go and what you want to accomplish. Because if you have a really clear goal of where you want to go, then you wake up every day with a mindset to do the stuff that you need to do to get there. And I'll give you an example. Like if you want to, go to regionals, you want to run in CrossFit, or you want to run 100 miles, you got to do certain stuff, and some of the stuff is going to suck probably, but you need to do that in order to be able to run the 100 miles and to get to regionals. So you wake up every day with a mindset with, I have to do this stuff, even though it sucks, even if I don't want to, if I wanted to accomplish the bigger goal that I have.
Yeah, well, you would know because you're a CrossFit champion. So, yeah, for sure. So mindset it's accepting that which is going to be hard to do, the outcome or the end result that you want to get to. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So for me, the reason I want to talk about mindset is because we did our first daily dose here was around the topic of selling, and being human. And one of the things that I've been working a lot on over the last couple of weeks is my own personal mindset as it relates to the business, as it relates to myself. And so I've been reading a book called The Master Key System, which I learned about through a podcast interview with Terry Crews, who was on Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he talked about this Master Key System. And there's a lot of books out there that talk about mindset and positive, constructive thinking and all those kinds of things. So I think if you pick up, most of any of those books, they're going to be useful. This is just one that I chose, and I feel like it's been useful for me. And it kind of talks a little bit about what some of the stuff that Stephen was talking about, which is, this idea of trying. I think trying is okay. I think it's okay, but as long as the trying is earnest in effort. And one of the things, and I've been taking notes. One of the things I do is I take notes of the highlights in a book, just so I can write it down, because then it burns that in my brain a little bit more, and then I can go back and page through. One of the things I wrote down from a highlight in the book is if you do not intend to do a thing, do not start. If you do start, see it through. And so, sometimes trying, you're not always going to succeed. But knowing where you want to go and knowing that you've decided to start, that you've decided to give it an effort, is the most important thing. And we talked a little bit about this earlier before we got on the podcast about trying, for example, me teaching my son trying, and having a mindset like, hey, whatever I'm going to do is really hard. For him, it's learning how to swim, or learning how to skateboard, or learning how to do certain gymnastics routine. All that stuff is really, really hard to do. And at 6, everything you do at 6 is hard, because you're learning everything for the first time. And so it's easy to get frustrated. And so you have to just decide, okay, these are the things I want to learn how to do. And then it's just a matter of choosing to tolerate the difficulties that go in between getting from where you are to where you want to go, much like Julian was talking about. Because people asking me about the mindset of running 100 miles or 200 miles or swimming 23 miles, whatever that is. And it's just a matter of saying, this is the thing I really, really, really want to do. And then just working backwards and saying, well, before I do a 23-mile swim, I'm going to figure out how to do a 10-mile swim. Before I do a 10-mile swim, I'm going to figure out how to do 10,000 yards in the pool. And I know I have to do 10,000 yards in the pool in order to be ready for that 10-mile swim. So it's just breaking it down and accepting that there's this certain things that do suck, but just choosing to make it an action. Which leads me to the second thing from this book I wanted to share, which is from the very beginning, in the very, very beginning of this book, in part 1, it talks about the mind. It says the mind is creative, and conditions, environment, and all experiences in life are the result of our habitual or predominant mental attitude. And later on in the book, it starts talking about how, and you hear this from other people like Tony Robbins and others, that thoughts everything in this world is a result of a thought. Everything that you see started as a thought. It started as an idea. So whether it's, a house that got built, or a business that got built, or a computer that you're working with, somewhere, somehow that started as an idea. It started as a thought. And so if your thoughts are negative or your thoughts are deconstructive, you can't do positive things. But if your thoughts are constructive and your thoughts are focused on things which are making yourself better, making people better, making your environment better, then that's going to lead to constructive outcomes. So I know there are people that could talk about mindset for hours and hours and hours, but this is something that's been important to me. And I found just in the last few weeks, I've never felt like a negative person. I've never felt like the kind of person that's been destructive, but I do know that I felt that it was important for us in our company to change the mindset on how we're approaching our customers, approaching our prospective customers, approaching partners around us, because what we were doing wasn't natural for us. And to make that change required a mindset change. And as I've been changing the mindset, we've seen all kinds of positive ripple effects. So that's my share about mindset. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Affirmative.
Affirmative. Yeah. So I guess like I guess if I had an ask to somebody who's either watching this or listening to this, is just to like consider what is your mindset. So for me, like one of the things I do every morning is morning pages. People ask all the time, like, how do you, like mindset is one thing, like how do you get yourself into a good mindset? So one of the things I've learned to do, and I've been doing these for about 5 years now, it's something I learned from Julia Cameron it was a book that she wrote about what she called the artist's way, I think it's called. And she talks about doing morning pages where you just write 3 pages. And so for me, what that does is it helps get all of the vomit that's in my brain out on a piece of paper, so I can see my problems, I can see my challenges, I can see my opportunities all in one place. And that helps me get into a mindset for the day to know like what's ahead for the day. Like this is the day, these are the calls I'm going to make, these are the people I'm going to meet with, this is the time I'm going to spend with myself doing exercise, this is the time I'm going to spend with my family, these are the priorities that my wife has, these are things that my son has going on. Like just seeing all that stuff gets me in a mindset that the day is just a process. I can follow that process. If I do these things, then I'm going to get the outcome, which is a successful day that I want to get. So that's like one thing that I would suggest people do before you open your computer, before you turn your phone off airplane mode in the morning. Like just sit down and just write a couple pages, and that will, I think, help you get into a better mindset about where you want to be, where you want to go for that day.
I would add to that, set a timer, because sometimes people just like, I'm a little scared, like I got to write 3 pages, I can't write 3. Set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and just do that in the mornings. And then when the timer's up, you quit. If you want to keep going, you add another 5 minutes. But I think the part about mindset is making the difficult things approachable. So you mentioned like, don't think you got to run 23 miles in the pool. You got to start with a couple laps. Sorry, there's a helicopter going overhead. It confused me. Start with a small incremental step that you can manage, you can make, and then build on that the next time, and you'll be on your way. But start.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the success of success, whether that success is really big or even really small, and that's one of the things we do with all of our clients. Every time we interact with them, we always ask them before we get into the questions and how we can help them, we always ask them like, hey, tell me about a win or a learning that you've had over the last couple of days, however big or however small. Because I think all of us are constantly pressing forward, and it's easy to kind of beat yourself up. And I think one of the best ways to get into a positive mindset is to just think back a week ago or a month ago or a year ago and say, hey, where was my business a year ago? Where was my business a month ago? I may be stressed about all these investor conversations that I'm having right now, but a month ago, I maybe didn't have any of those investor conversations. This is actually a good thing. So how do I turn this stressful thing into a positive, constructive interaction with myself? Julian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, now that you were talking about celebrating wins and the mindset, I was just thinking about where I was like a year ago and where I'm now. And it's really, really easy to lose track of progress if you don't actually write it down. So I think that's a great suggestion, just to write down your progress, compare yourself now to where you were a year ago, and see how you progress and celebrate your wins.
Do you mind me asking, like, what's big one thing that's different now than a year ago?
I think I'm doing a lot more valuable work. I think I've learned a lot. I've grown. I'm implementing stuff and seeing results. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think like a year ago, you and I were doing some work together, but not as much as we're doing now.
No, not even close.
Not even close. So now you're running all of our marketing campaigns. You're running all of our customer success campaigns, doing all that remotely. We're able to pay you a little bit more money, which is good. And you're living in Mexico City, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking about moving, man. There was an earthquake like site here.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
I hear you. Cool. All right, guys. Well, look, again, this is a topic I think we could all spend a lot of time on, but I think if anything, like I said, one action might be to write down, do some morning pages, or just ask yourself, like, is there something about your personal mindset that you feel like you'd want to change? And even if you're not sure how to change it, just identifying the one thing that you'd like to change. Maybe it's the interactions you're having with other people, or the interactions you're having with your family, or the way you're thinking about your business or thinking about yourself. Just identifying the thing that you want to change is the first step to figuring out what it is that you might want to change. And just consider that if things aren't going right or going the way that you want them to go, maybe it's not the world around you. Maybe it's just like the mindset that you have towards it. So, all right, guys, thanks for jumping on And everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're liking these podcasts and videocasts, would love it if you share it with other people. Leave a review on iTunes or wherever you are listening to this podcast. I think we're now getting on SoundCloud. And so it's another place where you can be tuning into these podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, share it with other people. We want to help as many people as we can with some of the things that we're sharing here. And if it's useful to you, maybe it's useful to somebody else. So let somebody else know. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to or watching The Daily Dose, another edition of the Startup Selling Show. See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.